Governor DeSantis, thank you for joining us. So with Debby expecting to make landfall in the state sometime tomorrow morning, what is your biggest concern right now?
Well, Jen, Floridians, we're just urging them to execute their plan. The storm is near. We're already seeing impacts in southwest Florida. The eye wall is going to end up entering our state somewhere in the Big Bend region later today, early tomorrow. It has picked up some speed. It's picked up some intensity. We had about 11 months ago Hurricane Idalia. This storm is a very similar track to what Hurricane Idalia was. Now, Hurricane Idalia was a stronger storm in terms of the wind, but it did not leave even close to amount of water as this storm, Debby, is going to leave. So we anticipate it'll be potentially 90 miles an hour, Category 1, may even be a weak Category 2, and Floridians know that, and they typically prepare for that. The amount of water, though, that this is going to drop as it enters our state and goes to the northeast is going to be significant. North Central Florida already has been saturated this summer, so we are preparing for flooding throughout that region. And so I would tell Floridians, yes, execute your plan now. Hunker down, listen to your local emergency management officials, but just understand that even as the storm passes, because of these river systems, you're going to see flood potential, not just immediately, but for days afterwards.
That is indeed the nature of water here. Nothing happens too quickly, right? You mentioned the fact that we are going to have some strong winds. What about power outages? We know they're inevitable. What's being done to make sure that we can get the power back on after the storm?
Well, first, we just tell Floridians when you have a storm that gets to this strength, there's going to be power outages. So just prepare for that. Make sure that you can handle what you need to handle. Now, we have pre-staged, I think about 17,000 linemen. We're working with all the utility companies. We're working with folks out of state so that as soon as it's safe to do so, crews can get in and work to get the power back on. We're also, for the first time in our state's history, using some of these flood prevention devices to protect utility substations. This is things that have been used to protect hospitals in the past. It's been effective. We're now deploying those on those substations. I think what we found with storms like Ian, the substations that were raised, they ended up not having impact. Some of the ones that were lower lying, they had problems with the flood. So our hope on that is to be able to mitigate the damage that the water is doing. I just got off the phone with the mayor of Tallahassee. We don't know how far west this is going to go. We're here in Tallahassee now at the Emergency Operations Center. You go outside, there's trees everywhere here. So when you have storms, that creates debris and that creates power interruption. So getting that back on is a priority, and we have the resources ready to go to do it.
Yeah, and speaking of Tallahassee and the tree canopy, the city's known for that. You suffered some previous storms, of course, hurricanes like Idalia, but also the tornadoes that we had earlier this spring. And earlier today, we spoke to residents who still have damage to their homes from that. Take a listen to what their concerns are.
On May 10th, we were hit with a tornado, and none of the work has begun to repair our house, so we're under tarps right now, and we're getting ready for this one. I'm just wondering if our tarps will hold up for what's coming next.
Right, and of course, wind and the chance of a couple of tornadoes still possible. Governor, what do you have to say to Rick and to others that may be in the same situation?
Well, first, if you look at those tornadoes, and we went, as soon as they passed, we were on the scene looking at the damage. You could be driving down the street and it seemed like nothing was wrong at all. And then you go a block or two one direction and you see really significant damage. So obviously those homes that were in that situation are going to be more vulnerable this time. But what I would say is the winds that we'll face from this, if it does come over Tallahassee, are not going to be as strong as those tornado winds, but it's going to be much more widespread throughout the city. You're not going to have an instance where 2 blocks suffer serious damage and then 2 blocks the other way suffer no damage. I mean, there's going to be trees, there's going to be debris that could potentially be all throughout the city. Now, our Florida Department of Transportation has cut and toss crews ready, As soon as the storm passes, they will work to clear the roadways, and they also work to pave the way for utility workers to be able to go in and access the power lines as needed. So we understand that that's an issue no matter what in Florida, anywhere a storm would hit, but particularly in this part of Florida, which is so heavily wooded.
Yes, for sure. You mentioned this earlier that Floridians often prepare for the category +1. And we know that when it comes to describing a hurricane, it's not just about the category. We could see a lot of different effects and risks from the storm. What are the challenges with communicating the dangers of this particular storm?
Well, we've been very clear about the dangers of floodwater. So this is not something you want to be walking in. This is certainly not something you want to be driving in. Most of the fatalities from flooding occur because people are trying to drive their car in the floodwaters, and you don't even have to have the road flooded that much for that car to spin out of control. So there is going to be flooding. There could potentially be widespread flooding. So please take precautions and do not go in. You could have your street flooded and you're going in. There could be debris. There could be down power lines. It does create a hazardous environment. That's a little bit different than Idalia, which was mostly a Category 3 type, almost Category 4 type wind event, which created a lot of debris, created storm surge, it created damage, but it did not have the inundation with the rain that this storm is going to have. So this is going to be different than what we saw 11 months ago. And we always say, as much as you don't want to have a big wind event, a lot of the things that we build in Florida since Hurricane Andrew can withstand really significant winds. That water, though, when that gets really high, that becomes a major, major hazard. So there's going to be a lot of water. It does prevent a hazard. So people need to take adequate precautions, and please do not try to drive in flooded streets.
Yeah, thank you for that advice. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, appreciate your time today. Thanks for joining us here. And we'll be certainly watching this storm as it continues to ramp up, heading towards the coast tonight.